Connecticut sort of had this experiment. And it's funny because in Connecticut, what happened was they raised rates, I think it was 2007, from around 15 cents a kilowatt hour to 19 cents a kilowatt hour, and it was a disaster. And all these people decided to do the right thing, right? They went out and bought a compact fluorescent light bulb, and they decided to do some insulation in their home and said, you know what, we're going to take this seriously now. So what does UI and CL&P do? They say, you know what, because you guys saved so much electricity, we need to raise your rates 12%. Right? And we had this whole movement called Fight the Hike that's been working in Connecticut for the past year, and they've been working their butts off to try to fight the hike, and they're actually pretty successful. But they weren't successful in actually creating respect for the actual solution set to where this is going. Right? They sort of were successful at saying what we don't want. We don't want the utility to continue on business as usual, which is obvious. Business as usual since 2000 in the Northeast has raised rates by over 5% a year annually. Before that time, rates went up about 0.7%, 0.6%, something like that. So, so clearly the utilities in this, region have been mismanaging the grid, right? I mean, at some point, if you actually raise rates at 8 times the levels that you did for the last 30 or 40 years before that, then you made some really bad decisions. Right, and one of the decisions that they made that was really bad was they went and they were over reliant on natural gas, right? Because the folks in the Northeast said, well, we don't want this tainted power from Hydro Quebec, where they destroyed all this wilderness for the Indian and the Native American populations up there. So we want you to do something else. Fine, okay. So then they did natural gas. Well, lo and behold, no one was looking at the books. I mean, the books were clear that natural gas was a very volatile fuel. That some years it's $2.80 a million BTU, and some years it's $12 a million BTU. Today it's $3.80 a million BTU, and guess what they're doing? They're doubling down on natural gas. That's super smart, I mean, think about what's going to happen, 3 years from now. 3 years from now, it's going to go back up again. And of course, now that natural gas is $3.80 a million BTU, guess how much money they're giving back to you? Right? I mean, and so what they've done is they said, you know what we should do? We should raise the base rates. We should do something. We should put in new transmission and distribution. We should do something because we cannot lower the rates for people. We actually have to keep increasing them, otherwise our shareholders aren't that happy. So they're doing this stuff, right? And so this is business as usual. And we've got to figure out how to change business as usual. It is physically impossible for me as a business person to think that some of these executives cannot figure out how to make money doing the sustainable thing, right? I mean, how is it that you can just sit there and say, okay, I've got a monopoly. I was granted this monopoly by the people of a state, right? And so now, the way I make money for my shareholders is to spend money. Now, the regulator's job is to make sure I don't spend money, right? So they want to try to keep it low and keep the rates low, et cetera, which, by the way, they haven't been doing a great job of, but that's besides the point. So now we're at this stage where they have to make money. They've got to actually install stuff. So what do we need, right? Well, in New Hampshire, what they need is a solution to fuel oil, right? I mean, fuel oil is a disaster. And, in 2008, everyone thought they were going to go bankrupt in the winter. Luckily, the recession happened, I guess, and fuel oil came down. It's ridiculous that we actually had to be saved by a recession, and now no one seems to care. And, and then the IEA came out, and the IEA, which is basically owned by the oil industry, said there's going to be a supply-demand imbalance, because of the underinvestment in oil over the last 12 months. And that supply-demand imbalance is going to create higher oil prices, right? That's like Alan Greenspan saying there's going to be a recession coming, right? Which means it's like, this soft speak, which means we're going back to $150 a barrel of oil as soon as the economy comes back because of this supply-demand issue. So in New Hampshire, what I would do if I was Public Service of New Hampshire or another utility is I'd say to the PUC, we have a solution for you. Or I would go to somebody else at the Public Service Commission or Public Utilities Commission and say, we can actually change this. We're a sustainable organization. There are wood pellets companies. There are people doing propane. There are people doing, natural gas. There's all sorts of wonderful technologies out there that aren't fuel oil, right? So how is it that in this state, right, they can actually, say to people, you can't use lead weights anymore for your fishing line because loons, swallow them and then die. And so you have to use stainless steel weights, and they rust, and we know that, but you have to do that. But they can't say, you can't buy a fuel oil furnace anymore. Right? I mean, why can't they just say, no more fuel oil furnaces? I can't believe that they would allow somebody to buy a fuel oil furnace, and then at the time at which fuel oil goes to $5 a gallon, they're going to come back and say, you know what? You poor thing. You bought a fuel oil furnace 2 years ago. We are going to give you a subsidy because you can't afford to heat your home. Well, damn, of course you can't afford to heat your home. We all knew this was going to happen. Right? And this is the problem. They don't respect what it is that we do. We're not a bunch of people who are just hysterically saying that, that the second coming is happening, and so you all have to find shelter in a bunker. We're people saying, look, we have read Business Week. We have read Newsweek. We have read the documents that have been provided to us by, fair and balanced people within the media and on the internet, etc. And we've realized that there is a resource-constrained world coming. Right? That in the last 50 years, this country and many other countries around the world have prospered in a way that didn't have to worry about resources.